Good evening and welcome to Lyons Township High School's Back to School webinar. We will begin tonight's webinar in about 1 minute. Good evening, and again, welcome to tonight's Lyons Township High School's Back to School webinar. My name is Brian Waterman. I'm honored to serve as the superintendent here at LT, and we're excited that you've joined us here this evening. Our goal is to share some important information about LT's planning efforts for the upcoming school year and to provide you, our parents, students, and community with the information that you'll need to be prepared for your student to return for the 21-22 school year. Before we begin, it's my pleasure to introduce LT Principal Dr. Jennifer Tyrrell, who will also be presenting tonight and sharing some important details about our back to school plan. Welcome, Dr. Tyrrell.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman, and hello, LT students and families. I'm thrilled to be with you here tonight to share some very important and exciting information about our back to school plan.
So before I begin, I want to point out that tonight's webinar is being recorded and will be accessible on the LT website by tomorrow afternoon, by 3 p.m. at the latest tomorrow afternoon. So don't feel like you have to write everything down. In addition, all that we're sharing with you this evening is currently posted on our website under the 21-22 back to school plan. So all the information is already included on our website. So in early March, when we really started to plan for this school year, we couldn't imagine where we would be in 5 months. But here we are, ready and excited for the upcoming year. The input that was provided by our students, our parents, our staff, our teachers, counselors, social workers, health office staff, and the guidance and information provided by the CDC, the Illinois Department of Public Health, the Cook County Department of Public Health, and the Illinois State Board of Education has really informed our planning efforts every step of the way. It's important to note that 2 of our 3 goals from last year have not changed. We are going to, of course, continue to prioritize the health and safety of our students, of our staff, and our community. We're also going to continue to work diligently to support the basic wellness needs of our students and families. Our 3rd goal, however, has changed. Instead of maximizing in-person learning when possible, which was what our goal was last year, we are instead very excited to return to an instructional model where full in-person learning is the basic expectation for all students. To that end, we will return to a pre-pandemic 8-period in-person full day of instruction for all students. Our objectives for tonight. So our objectives for tonight is to share a basic overview of our COVID-19 mitigation plan, to also share some exciting information about how we plan to welcome students back during the week of August 15th, and to share the variety of ways that we are planning to support students from an academic and social emotional perspective. So I want to first begin tonight talking a little bit about just sharing an overview of our COVID-19 mitigation plan. First of all, it's important to note that per the CDC, vaccination is the leading public health prevention strategy to end the COVID-19 pandemic. So we will continue to promote the importance of vaccination for our students and our staff. Currently, we have about 35% of our students have shared their vaccine card with us, and we encourage all students to share their card with us by emailing a picture or a PDF to studentcovid@lths.net. We've already hosted 2 vaccine clinics at LT, and we will continue to look for opportunities to host vaccination clinics in the future. In addition, LT will adhere to the most recent mask mandate announced by Governor Pritzker and require universal masking of all teachers, staff, students, and visitors. This also applies to individuals using school transportation, buses, minibuses, vans, driver education vehicles, etc. And this new measure is part of the state's ongoing effort to combat a new surge as the Delta variant rapidly spreads. In addition, per CDC guidance, when individuals consistently and correctly wear masks, they protect themselves and others from COVID-19. In general, people will not need to wear masks when outdoors. LT will also continue to adhere to social distancing of 3 feet. We will implement that when possible to do so. However, we will not do that if it interrupts in-person learning activities or events. So we will do everything we can to keep students 3 feet apart, but not at the expense of in-person learning, of course. We will continue to contact trace for close contacts per the Cook County Department of Public Health guidance, and fully vaccinated students do not need to quarantine following known exposures if they are asymptomatic. It's an important part there about contact tracing, and we'll of course share some additional details around quarantine and contact tracing later in tonight's presentation. We've also continue to monitor our air ventilation system. Our air handler system at LT provides fresh air into each building in conjunction with exhaust fans. And our systems include a minimum total of air changeover of about 6 times per hour, exceeding those minimum standards. In addition, we have unit ventilators at both campuses that provide heat and cooling to individual spaces and bring in a minimum of 10% fresh air at all times as well. And we can, of course, adjust those based on temperatures and demands within each of those areas. Also this year, in lieu of the daily symptom screener that parents completed last year, parents will be asked to complete a health acknowledgement form for their student prior to the beginning of the school year. It's similar to the system we use during summer school, for those of you that participate in summer school. Completion of the acknowledgement is simply a commitment that students and families will continue to monitor symptoms on a daily basis, as well as report any COVID-19 symptoms, infections, and or exposure to our health services offices as quickly as possible. We also have the ability within each of our health offices to conduct point of care testing through the BinaxNOW Now test. And so we can conduct that for individuals who become symptomatic while at school in order to immediately identify and assist with contact tracing efforts. This, of course, requires parental consent to participate in this. And again, we'll explain a little bit more about that later on this evening. LT will continue to have hand sanitizer stations readily available at both campuses. And we will also continue to update the Lyons Township High School District 204 COVID-19 dashboard so that we can monitor transmission rates within our community and make any available adjustments as we continue to monitor the data. And then finally, we're currently considering the advantages of participating in the SHIELD testing program through the University of Illinois, and considering the potential benefits that can provide to our students, our staff, and our community. And we will have more information on that in the coming weeks. And of course, that would also require parental consent as well, and it would be an opt-in test for students. So that is that's a basic overview of our COVID-19 mitigation plan. And as I said before, what we're going to do now is shift to the operational side and share really a lot of information about what your students going to experience and see while they're students here this year. I'm going to turn over to Dr. Tyrrell to go over those details.
Great, thank you, Dr. Waterman. We're going to go ahead and start by talking a little bit about athletics and activities. I'm happy to share with all of you tonight that our fall athletic season kicked off yesterday, and we are really excited about that. A bit of a change to our co-curricular night. We are going to make that pre-presentation accessible virtually for our families prior to August 24th. And then the experience on the 24th at 7 p.m. will be the actual fair experience where our students can connect with sponsors and coaches. For our athletic programs, parents have been asked to complete a one-time COVID waiver, just consenting to the fact that they will not be sending, you will not be sending your student athletes to school or participating in athletics if there are COVID symptoms or COVID positive, a COVID positive case. Masking procedures for athletics and activities are consistent with our school day plan. So athletes and coaches will be required to wear masks inside, They will not be required to wear masks outside. And if a participant becomes positive for COVID-19, they're required to notify our athletic office immediately. We anticipate all activities and events that they will commence as usual. We have marching band going on right now. A quick note on our music programs. Our orchestra and choral programs will be masked. Our students participating in those programs will be masked when they are inside the building. Participating in those programs, our band students will wear the masks as best possible and then remove it when they are playing instruments. And our marching band students are currently not masked outside and masked when they are inside at this point in time. A little bit about arrival and dismissal. All students should be wearing masks as they enter the building. We will have student assistants and administrators welcoming our students as they report to school to start the day, and they will be checking mask compliance. All students are expected to provide their own mask, although we will have disposable masks available as needed for students if they forget theirs or leave it in the car when they are dropped off. Transportation requires masking as well. So students who ride bus transportation to school will have to wear that mask as well. And then a note about after school. We love when our students stay after school who are participating in co-curricular activities, different events, athletics, getting help from a teacher or any school-sponsored academic experience after school. But we'll ask that those students that are not participating exit at the end of the school day to avoid congregating. Little bit about our cleaning protocols. All desks, tables, and chairs will be cleaned and sanitized on a daily basis, as will door handles and high-touched areas as well. Those will be sanitized daily. And then restrooms will be cleaned multiple times throughout each school day, and that includes all surfaces and high-touch areas as well. Field trip procedures, we started to get back to more normal field trip procedures at the end of last year. Lyons Township High School will return to normal approval of field trips for the 2021-2022 school year. Overnight field trips will be approved on a case-by-case basis, and we will share additional guidance to those families that are going to be participating on overnight field trips so that they know the additional layers of COVID guidance and compliance that they'll have to participate in when they are on those trips. And then we're going to continue to offer, when we can, any virtual field trip experiences for our students that make sense. We realized last year through the pandemic that oftentimes these virtual experiences open things up for our students to experience new and different things aligned to curricular efforts and co-curricular efforts as well. All right, cafeteria and food service. So we will have some socially distanced seating available within our cafeterias, and we are going to significantly expand our use of outdoor eating spaces. So we'll be expanding that with open air seating and also tented seating available for our students as well. We would love it and encourage any students that are able to bring their lunch at the beginning of the school year to do just that. We will absolutely be serving lunch through our cafeterias, and we'll have limited options based on serving guidelines, staffing, and students' preferences, but it would really reduce congestion if we could have as many students as possible bring their lunch at the beginning of the school year. Those students that are purchasing their lunch, we would love it if our students could use their ID card to purchase their lunch through a cashless format. If we could work towards that, it would be not only COVID friendly, but it would keep the lines moving quickly as well. And those students who might not have the money on their card, they weren't able to add it through the Infinite Campus portal ahead of time, they can certainly add money to their card within our cafeterias. And then cafeteria tables will be cleaned between lunch periods. Hallways and physical spaces. So students will be issued lockers this year. It's been fun through the first couple of days of book pickup to see our students over here at North Campus getting their first, our junior students getting their first North Campus locker. And I'm looking forward to seeing our underclassmen over at South Campus as we close out the week. They will be issued lockers. Students should avoid congregating in halls and should make every attempt to get to their next destination prior to the bell. We'll have staff in the hall moving students along. It's just good practice to keep moving in the hallways to avoid congestion in small spaces. We will have, and some of you that have been in the building through this week have probably noticed, we'll have signage posted throughout the building regarding hand washing, masking, distancing, and staying home when ill. And in order to reduce congestion in restrooms, students will be able to access restrooms both during passing periods and also during class time. And we hope that that gets us into a position where restrooms aren't overcrowded and we can follow occupancy guidelines. Our student assistants will be encouraging students to move through the halls and will monitor restroom occupancy. And then traditional water fountains will continue to be turned off, and we'll monitor that throughout the course of the year. But to start the year, we will have bottle filling stations available and on at both campuses for student and staff use. And then as Dr. Waterman mentioned, we will have additional hand sanitizer stations available. And that doesn't mean that students can't bring their own hand sanitizer as well. If a student wants to bring hand sanitizer to keep it on them, then that's great as well. All right, classrooms will be designed with physical distancing in mind, but we just want to share that note again that in some cases we will not be able to accommodate 3 feet of distancing, and our teachers will maintain seating charts for students in the event that there needs to be contact tracing within the classroom, and we'll talk a little bit about contact tracing in just a bit. Physical education. We will follow IDPH guidelines regarding physical education classes and programming. And as we start the 21-22 school year, we anticipate that students will be participating in regular physical education programming, which means that we will use locker rooms and students will need to wear their school PE uniforms. We will be optimizing outside physical education classes to maximize student time unmasked. I think this is a really important note. When and where possible, we will be getting outside for physical education, and that will give most of our students 2 times a day that they are out of the building and able to take a mask break, both during lunch if they choose to go outside, and then also during physical education classes as well. Activities will be altered. Those activities that are considered to be high risk will be altered to minimize contact. We will resume the use of our fitness centers with an increased distance between equipment, and shared equipment will continue to be minimized, but when we do share equipment, we will sanitize between classes. And then we anticipate that swimming will commence at South Campus based on IDPH guidelines, but we will have an accommodated plan for those who wish to remain masked and distanced on dry land and do not want to participate in swimming programming. And our physical education teachers will be sharing more details with students and families impacted by that. For those that will be participating in driver education, all teachers and students, regardless of vaccination status, will need to wear masks while in driver education vehicles. We will sanitize between drivers. That's an important note to share. And then another in-car consideration, when and where possible, we will drive with the windows down, of course, unless we have situations of inclement weather. Okay, a little bit about student learning during quarantine, and I'll address kind of our quarantine process in just a bit. But when students are quarantined, they will use our Canvas learning management system to access class materials and assignments, and then teachers will provide them with any additional materials that are needed that might not be accessible on Canvas throughout their quarantine period. Additional support will also be available through a specialized program called LT Academy, and students and families that are impacted will be provided this information at the onset of a quarantine period. So we'll be sharing that information with our students that are impacted and in a quarantine situation here at LT. This next piece of information is located in the LTHS Back to School plan. So if this applies to you, please reference that plan. But for those very few students who have very significant medical conditions that limit their attendance or that they need cause for them to have modified planning, modified programming, please consult the Back to School plan and we will follow our homebound process. The form is linked within the plan, so we would start the process by the family filling out that form, and then follow-up would happen from our health services office and then potentially members of our administrative team as well. As Dr. Waterman shared, our method of instruction this year is in-person learning, so this really should only apply to very few families. And academic supports, all of our academic supports kind of pre-pandemic menu will restart this year. So we'll have our lunch study halls, drop-in centers, and then our support rooms as well. And we're targeting August 23rd to start those drop-in centers and the 30th to start more targeted support rooms. And then, as you all know, especially those that have been through book pickup this week, all students will have a Chromebook to support their learning, and we will continue utilizing Canvas as our learning management system, as well as various other applications as well. Okay, now we're going to shift a little bit and talk more about the health-related items. So this next slide is dedicated to COVID-19 symptoms and positives. So please note, and this is a very important note, that students and staff who have symptoms should stay home and contact their healthcare provider. So that's a very important point that we will continue to share with all members of the LT community. If somebody has symptoms, they should stay home. Any individual with a positive COVID-19 test will be required to isolate at home for at least 10 days from symptom onset or the date the positive test was collected, and that's in the case of an asymptomatic individual. So at this point in time, isolation for positive COVID-19 tests is a 10-day period. A positive COVID-19 case identified as having been on campus will initiate our contact tracing process. A little bit about contact tracing. So we will follow CCDPH recommendations when we are contact tracing here at LTHS. A close contact is defined by the CDC as any individual not fully vaccinated against COVID-19 who was within 6 feet of an infected person for a cumulative total of 15 minutes or more over a 24-hour period. Now, there's one exception to that. And there's actually a couple, an outdoor exception and one indoor exception. So for classroom exposures only and for students only, close contacts are defined as those individuals that were within 3 feet. So that's the only exception right now in terms of indoor contact, and it only occurs for students, not for staff. The other exception is that fully vaccinated persons who remain asymptomatic and those with documented COVID-19 infection within the past 90 days are excluded from quarantine. So when we contact trace, contact inside the building, students who were within 3 feet of other individuals in the class for more than 15 minutes would be considered close contacts. Those staff members who are within 6 feet of students, regardless of if the contact occurred in the classroom or outside of the classroom, would be considered close contacts. And fully vaccinated persons who remain asymptomatic and those who have had COVID-19 within the last 90 days are excluded from quarantine. And then, as I mentioned a bit earlier, individuals, and this is generally speaking because we work with the Cook County Department of Public Health in all situations where we are contact tracing, in general, individuals who are solely exposed to a confirmed case while outdoors should not be considered close contacts. Okay, a little bit about the quarantine options that are we'll be working with the health department in order to implement. Option 1 is a 14-day quarantine period. Option 2 is a 10-day quarantine period, and the specifics regarding the 10-day quarantine are is that the individual may end quarantine after 10 days if no symptoms of COVID-19 develop during daily monitoring. Testing is recommended, and the individual needs to be able to maintain physical distancing and masking at all times when returning to school for classrooms where masking is strictly adhered to. Physical distancing of 3 to 6 feet is acceptable for return. The next option, option 3, is a quarantine period for 7 calendar days after the last exposure. For that option to be implemented, or for that option to work for a student that was on quarantine, no symptoms would have developed during the daily monitoring, and the individual has to have a negative test that was collected within 48 hours of exposure day 7. We know this information is very complicated. It's ever changing based on health department guidance. Please be assured that if your family is in this situation, our outstanding nurses will go through the options that your family has for return to school and length of quarantine. The next two slides are committed to test to stay, and it's really important to note that the test to stay option will only be available when and if LTHS is implementing a screening program. As Dr. Waterman mentioned, we are looking into screening program at this point in time, and this option will be an option for us at LT if we are and when we are implementing a screening test program. So for right now, I will not go through all of the specifics, but please note that we are really looking into this as an option, and that this will allow us to open up and look at a test to stay program if we are implementing shield testing. And that will be, there's a series of testing protocols that have to be implemented in order to execute that option, and that's testing on days 1, 3, 5, and 7. And this will certainly be something that our nurses will go over with our families once it is an option to LTHS families. And this is also something that would have to be approved by the Cook County Department of Public Health. But our goal is definitely to get students in school and to keep students at school as much as we possibly can. And then this next slide, you can refer to it if you go back to review this recording. And again, all of this is outlined in our back to school plan, but these are some other provisions that are aligned to test to stay programming. Okay, point of care testing. The health offices at LT will have the ability to conduct point of care testing on symptomatic individuals to more immediately identify and assist with contact tracing efforts. Point of care testing of students who develop COVID-19 symptoms during the school day will allow for prompt isolation and contact tracing. It will also expedite return to the classroom when appropriate for staff and students who have symptoms, but they are not due to COVID-19 infection. And as Dr. Waterman shared at the start of the presentation, parents will give consent in order to participate in point of care testing. An important note to share with families right now: early next week, we will be sharing additional survey with families through our Infinite Campus portal that will include consent for point of care testing, as well as some other beginning of the year items that we'll be asking for parental consent on. Shield screening testing. So this is the testing that we referenced previously that we are planning for here at LT. We're planning for the use of screening testing as a layered mitigation effort, and we'll follow the CDC's screening testing recommendations by level of community transmission. And the details are located on page 8 of the LTHS back to school plan. Shield testing details will be communicated to families once testing is available and the plans have been finalized. And the recommendations for unvaccinated student and staff, as well as unvaccinated students participating in high, intermediate, and low risk athletics and activities, will be based on transmission rates within the community. And again, parents will give consent through an Infinite Campus survey prior to the start of the year, once we have more details outlined about our Shield screening testing. Okay, I'm going to shift gears here a bit and talk a little bit about social emotional supports and our student services delivery model here at LT. Earlier today, all of our families should have received through the Infinite Campus portal an email from Division Chair for Student Services Leslie Owens that outlined exciting changes that have been made to our student services delivery model. And essentially what we have done is reallocated our student support counselors to become grade level counselors at the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade level. Now, at this point in time, we have not added an additional grade level counselor at that senior year within 12th grade, but we do have our college and career counselor available for consultation with students and families there. This is exciting because it lowers the caseload, the number of students that each of our counselors are serving, so we can prioritize prevention-based services to our entire student body. We can have a continued emphasis on individual relationships between students and counselors, and those relationships we know are so important to all of us. They're so important to our counselors, they're important to our students, our families, and our entire community. So we are really excited to be able to increase the amount of time that our counselors are able to spend with our students because of a reduction in caseload. And now we will be more aligned with professional organization recommendations for those caseloads. So we're really excited about that. So as we kick off this school year, we are kicking off this school year really in a different way than we've ever had before. And we are going to start with a focus on social emotional supports, culture, community building, and fun. And so I'm going to give a quick summary of what the first couple of days will look like, and then share a little bit about some ongoing supports that we'll have available throughout the entire year. Then I'll get into some of the details about our fun, exciting back to school events. Thursday, August 19th is really kind of being designed as an experience day for all students. So we are redesigning that first day of school. All of our students will go through their schedule in the morning part of the day. So we will utilize our 7:45 to 11:30 bell schedule. Time in those classes, which will be about 23 minutes, will be spent connecting with teachers, doing inclusion and icebreaker activities, and just an opportunity for our students to get to know their teachers and also our students to get to know their classrooms a bit. In the afternoon, we're planning, and I'm sure you've read throughout the communications that I've shared over the course of the last month or so, we are planning LT fests at both of our campuses, and I'll share a few more of those details a little bit later, but we believe that it'll give our students an opportunity to come back, engage with their classmates, interact with our staff, and really just have fun on that first day of school. Friday, August 20th, we will have a day-long focus on making connections, accessing supports, and preparing for the 2021-2022 school year. Really excited about this. We recognize that all of our students need a little bit something different as they start this year. So we'll be doing some goal setting, reflection, talking about where and when they can access supports here at LT, checking in with our students on how they're feeling and what we can do to best support them. We have a couple of lessons on digital citizenship. We're going to give our students time to interact with their Chromebook and make sure that they are set, their devices are set, and that they're ready for learning at the start of the year. So we're also going to have an opportunity for our students to, engage in a bit of a discussion about getting connected through what we're calling Experience LT, and also in terms of joining co-curriculars, athletic, and performance groups here at LT. Throughout the entire year, we have added referral GPS to our menu of services for our students and families. And with referral GPS, we can now connect our students and families with vetted community-based mental health professionals that match families' financial, insurance, location, language, and area of specialization needs. And this is huge. We can provide great services here at LT, but we realize that some of our students need services outside of LT as well. And we're education experts, we're student support experts, but we don't necessarily have expertise within the area of insurance. Referral GPS gives our families an opportunity to input all of their information and get connected with mental health professionals that have been vetted. The link that you can access is located within the back to school plan. We also have formed a partnership with Angel, the comfort dog. So we will have Angel, an LLC approved comfort dog, on campus at both North and South Campus throughout the course of the semester. So we're really excited about that as well. Okay, and now just a little bit more on back to school plans. On Sunday, August 15th, we'll be doing a sophomore locker decorating event at South Campus. We really wanted to make sure that we did something special for our class of 2024 students, and we have them in mind as we're starting this school year as well. The event will run from 3 to 5 p.m. We'll have materials and supplies available for our students to decorate their lockers. Since this is the first time that they'll have a locker at LT, they'll have time to connect with their friends. We'll have music and treats available as well. Monday, August 16th is Freshman Experience Day. That's going to be a half-day schedule, 7:45 to 11:45. And the schedule for that day, we'll do a large group class of 2025 welcome. All of our incoming freshmen will have an opportunity to meet in large group presentation format with their counselor. We'll have small group inclusion activities, goal setting, and then we'll get all of our 2025 students out on the football field to take a class picture. So we are really excited about that. Wednesday, August 18th, our buildings will be open in the evening for a couple of hours. We realize that many of our students and families are taking tours through the buildings to find classes and lockers and do those beginning of the year things, gain comfort with the buildings through book pickup. But we also realize that that might not be enough time for everybody, or some of our families may not be able to make it this week to do that. So the buildings will be open on Wednesday, the 18th in the evening, just in the event that our students or families need to gain just a little bit more comfort before the 19th. And then, as I mentioned, the 19th is going to be a great day here at LT. We've shared some of the things that we have in store. We have a few more things, surprises in store for our students. Half-day bell schedule in the morning, LT fests in the afternoons, with time to connect, food, music, and fun. And we plan to dismiss students a bit early on the 19th. We are aiming at a 2 p.m. dismissal, and we'll confirm that with families when that is our finalized time. As I shared already, Friday, August 20th, we'll have a social emotional learning focus for all students, which we believe is an outstanding way to start this school year as we transition back into a more normal school environment. And then something that we're really excited to share with our students and families is our Experience LT Passport. We are putting the final touches on that at this point in time. And it looks like a golf card. We're going to have an online tool available for our students to use as well. But essentially, we've identified 18 different events between Freshman Experience Day and Homecoming 2021 that we're going to encourage our students to attend in order to just connect to LT, have fun, support their classmates, and also show their LT spirit. So we're really excited to share that with our students and hope that our students will have fun experiencing LT this fall. Couple other notes to share before I turn it back over to Dr. Waterman. So as I shared before, co-curricular night will be held on Tuesday, August 24th, and I will be sending a email communication regarding that event with details, and that will also include a short virtual presentation that we're going to ask families to watch before attending co-curricular night. That will be held at South Campus. August 26th is the date for our South Campus open house, and we will kick off that night with the freshman and new family welcome presentation in our field house at 6:15, and then Thursday, September 2nd is our North Campus open house. And one quick shout out and plug to follow us on social media. We are super excited about our brand new Twitter and Instagram social media accounts that we launched earlier this summer. So follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We can't wait to continue to share the great work and outstanding accomplishments of our students and staff through our social media accounts. And we'll also make sure to share important information about what's happening at LT. So just a quick plug to jump onto those social media accounts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tyrrell. So at this point, what we'd like to do is there should be a Q&A feature on the webinar. So if you have questions, please start to populate those. We already have a few questions out there. So let me stop sharing my screen. And then what we'd like to do at this point is try to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that we've heard over the last couple of weeks. And then both Dr. Tyrrell and I will both sort of take a stab at some of the questions that are in the Q&A panel. So the first question that has come up a lot the last couple of weeks is, how is LT planning to enforce the mask requirement? That's a common question. Certainly complying with wearing a mask is one of those basic behavioral expectations that we're going to ask students to meet when they return for the upcoming school year. In the event that students do not comply, we're going to work through our normal procedures as it relates to student accountability. We will, of course, begin with that supportive conversation and partner with students and families to ensure that students comply. And certainly we have a variety of tools available when we work with students in these types of situations. Ultimately, though, students who refuse to comply with the district's masking requirements may be subject to discipline. But certainly we're going to start with that supportive approach with both students and families. The next question that we've gotten a lot is, are there exceptions? Are there any exceptions regarding mask usage? There are a couple of exceptions as defined by the Illinois Department of Public Health. Children who are under 2 years of age, individuals who cannot safely wear a mask because of a disability as defined by the American with Disabilities Act, or individuals for whom wearing a mask would create a safety risk as defined by federal regulations. So those are the three exceptions to the mask wearing requirement. The third question that we've heard a lot, and that we've kind of addressed a little bit of this tonight, but is shield testing and the Binax Now testing, the screening testing and the point of care testing, is that required or optional? Students and families are going to have the ability to opt into these tests. Consent is required for both tests, and providing consent for one does not provide consent for the other. And then families are also going to have the option of revoking that consent at any point. And then the last question that's really come up a lot the last few weeks is, who's eligible for remote learning, or is LT offering a remote learning option this year? So as of mid-May, the Illinois State Board of Education passed a resolution stating that schools can offer remote learning this year only to students who are not vaccinated and who are under a quarantine order from a local health department. So the common term that we used last year was that Zoom and Room. We are not offering the Zoom and Room option this year at Lyons Township High School. And so we will have a small number of students who may require remote learning from time to time, and we will support them in a different way this year than we did last year. So that's some of the common questions that we've heard this year. I want to go to our question and answer session here and see if we've got some questions. So that first question was about, do you have an option for remote school this year? Dr. Tyrrell talked about that LT Academy, and will support students who are under a quarantine order in a little bit different of a way this year.
I have the next one. Next one, Dr. Waterman. I'll actually address the next couple of questions. If you submitted a vaccine card last year, you should be good to go. So we have kept a running total of all vaccine cards that have been submitted. And then the question about being assigned to a classroom for lunch, that should be for a study hall. So our students should be eating lunch in the cafeteria, and then that other period opposite lunch should be a study hall. So all of our students should have an opportunity to eat in the cafeteria.
There is a question on there about the percentage. What are the percentage of students vaccinated at LT? So not necessarily the percentage of students vaccinated, but we currently have collected about 35% of students have submitted their vaccination card. We certainly want to see that number continue to increase. But right now, as of today, we are about 35% of our students have submitted a vaccine card. So if you have that card, you've not done that yet, please do. You can email a JPEG file or a PDF of the vaccination card to studentcovid@lths.net.
I can answer the next. There was a question about additional opportunities for students to get outside. That's a great question. We actually will be exploring, and we have had instances prior to COVID where our teachers will take students outside to pursue their learning within their classrooms, and had some conversation today about that as well. So I anticipate that there will be some options for that in addition to time outside within PE and then lunch as well. So thank you for sharing that note.
Okay, Dr. Tyrrell, there's a couple questions about the first day of school. Will the food and the fun be barbecue and bounce houses? It's a great question. So you can talk about that, right?
Absolutely. We might have barbecue and bounce houses as well. So to reiterate the schedule for the first day, schedule for all students will be a traditional start time. We'll just end a little bit early at 2 p.m. The morning part of our schedule will be students going through their class schedule, and then all of our students will attend the afternoon LT Fest at the campuses. So on the 19th, our day will end at 2 p.m. So all of our students' day will end at that time, but our students will have a couple of hours to enjoy our LT Fests, barbecues, bounce houses, I don't know, some photo opportunities, and time to connect with their friends as well.
Really good question from freshman families about what drop-in centers and support rooms are. So I can talk a little bit about that. So every student in their schedule has either a 4th period or a 5th period lunch and study hall. So for example, if a student has 4th period lunch study hall, half of that period, so that period is 55 minutes long, 50 minutes long with a 5-minute passing period. Half of that period, 25 minutes, is dedicated to lunch. The other half of that period, students are assigned to a study hall, which allows them to study, get work done for that particular day. If a student begins to struggle in a class, teachers have the option of referring the student to a support room. So the student schedule would actually be changed. They would not attend the study hall during that time frame, which is anywhere from 6 days to 10 days. They would instead be assigned to a support room where they would get help from a classroom teacher. That's more teacher directed. Students, though, have the ability to, instead of going to study hall, from a student initiated basis, they can attend a drop-in center if they would like to. So this is more for a situation where the student's not struggling in class, but they just have a question about a particular course or a particular test coming up. They on their own can visit a drop-in center for a variety of content areas as well. So when you look at your student schedule, you'll see that they have lunch assigned either 4th period or 5th period. Half of that period is actually lunch, and the other half of the period will start the year in a study hall, and then they could be assigned to a support room, or they could visit a drop-in center during that time. So it's a really good question.
Dr. Waterman, I'll address a couple more questions about our beginning of the year events. So Freshman Experience Day on the 16th is only for students, so that is not a parent event, and we will be providing transportation. So the event starts consistent with our regular school day schedule, so bus transportation would be provided per the information that you have on times of routes. I will be sending a specific targeted communication to our class of 2025 families. So if we don't get to all of these questions, I will certainly address some of the questions that are being asked specifically on Freshman Experience Day through that communication. There were also a couple of questions on our 19th event, so the first day of school, about lunch. We will be providing that lunch, so you don't need to send your child to school with a lunch, and we are working on developing groups and a rotation schedule so that our students have an opportunity to have some fun, get lunch, and also kind of control the areas that our students are in as well.
A few questions about the heat and masks, and specifically about South Campus in August and September. So one of the things we do on an annual basis is, especially on hot days when it's, the temperature's above 85 or 90 degrees, we do have spaces around each facility that are air conditioned, and so teachers can request in advance to use those. It obviously that we can't allow every classroom to use that, but we essentially implement a heat plan, which allows students in classes to request one of our air-conditioned spaces, for a particular class period or for a day. It's certainly not a perfect plan, and we know that there are some specific classrooms and some days where the heat can be excessive, but we do try to provide those opportunities for classrooms to get into an air-conditioned space, at least for part of the day. Also, some questions about Freshman Experience Day. Buses will be provided on Freshman Experience Day. There was a question about, do parents have to attend? Parents should not attend on Monday, August 16th for Freshman Experience Day.
There were a couple questions on our co-curricular fair. It will be held at South Campus in the field house, and we're also exploring the use of other gyms as well, just so that we can spread out. And we anticipate that more families will want to attend this year than on a regular traditional year. Historically, it's been for incoming freshman families, families that are new to LT, but certainly if there was, a sophomore, junior, or senior family that wanted to learn more about what we have to offer at LT, certainly by all means, you can attend that co-curricular fair as well. It is our mission to get every single one of our students connected to a co-curricular here at LT. We think it's really important, and it allows for our students to have a more rich LT experience. There is also a ton of information on the activities page of our website. Now that will be updated in terms of when clubs are meeting, when they're starting. All of that will be updated over the course of the next few weeks, but we have some great virtual activity fair resources on our website as well that you can check out in advance of that co-curricular fair as well.
Good clarification question here about the first day. Do kids need to bring lunch on the first day, or will we provide lunch? We will be providing lunch on that first day through the festival that Dr. Tyrrell talked about. So no need to bring lunch on that day. You see other questions on there, Dr. Tyrrell? That
I see one on busing. I'm under the impression, and I saw a few come through, that our communication bus route information was sent to families earlier this morning. So if you want to check your email, you may have something, and that was sent directly to families that will have transportation provided to them. So if there's additional questions there, you can certainly contact Greg Gardner, our South Campus Associate Principal, and he can help you work through those issues.
Question here about athletics, and mentioning that last year Bennett Field and the cross country course were considered facilities, so that individuals had to wear masks. This year in general, individuals do not have to wear masks when outdoors. So for any outside events, and I think Dr. Tyrrell talked about this a little bit earlier, but just students having the opportunity to go outside for lunch and go outside for physical education classes, but also after school outside activities will give students those opportunities throughout the day to not have to wear a mask during those times. If there's any more here. There's a question here about scuba. Will scuba be held? So we will offer our traditional PE programs, and including scuba.
In terms of attendance at events, there's a question about attendance at football games. We'll be following IDPH has sport-specific guidelines as well. So if those guidelines are altered in any way that limits attendance at events, we'll be following those guidelines. But right now we are planning as if we will be offering attendance for families at our sporting events, and we'll be watching out for additional communication from the IHSA and IDPH, which of course will cause us to shift if they outline different recommendations. But we're hopeful. We're really hopeful.
I think there was a question about homecoming, whether homecoming is a go, and yes, it is a go. Saturday, October 2nd. Do I have that date right? I think it's Saturday, October 2nd. Dr. Tyrrell, can you talk about student parking at North Campus? Will info be sent on that?
Sure. Mr. Radovich is our senior class AP, and I believe that he shared some information with students and families on our parking lottery. So that parking lottery will occur over the first couple of weeks of school, and I can touch base with Mr. Radovich and have him send additional parking reminders to all of our senior families so that they don't miss that opportunity, all of our families over here at North Campus.
Okay, we got just a couple more minutes here for questions. So if you have any questions that we didn't cover, please put those in the Q&A, and we will do our best to get to as many as we can here in the last few minutes. So the question just came in: how early can students arrive on campus? So our first period bell on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday starts at 7:45. So traditionally around 7 o'clock, our campus is open and students can go to their locker and get ready for the day. Yes. So another question came in: is there a chance for book pickup after August 13th? Yeah, we will have a small number of students who aren't able to attend book pickup. We traditionally have them visit the assistant principal's office, the first day of school. There's probably also a makeup period before the first day of school. Is that right, Dr. Tyrrell, that students can pick up books?
Yep, we have a couple of makeup days targeted. So if you're not going to be able to attend book pickup, either parent or student can email the class assistant principal, and they'll give you all of the information that you need to ensure that you can come on in for that late book pickup. We'll make sure everybody has what they need prior to the beginning of the school year.
When do PE uniforms have to be purchased by? That's one that just came up. So that's another thing, that there'll be opportunities if you're not able to purchase one before the beginning of the school year. There'll be opportunities on those first few days of school to be able to take care of that.
And yearbooks are available at book pickup. So if you already came through and missed that, you can come back through and grab that yearbook. We did distribute earlier this summer, but they are available over the course of the next week. And then we will certainly find a time to get families their yearbooks, students their yearbooks who don't have a chance to pick up through book pickup as well.
Good question about entrances at South Campus. So is there more than one entrance into the South Campus during a normal school day? So our main entrance off the Circle Drive is a popular entrance, but also the entrance on the north side of campus near the pool, but also that's more the northwest side, but also just due north of the campus, there's an entrance there as well, and that's where traditionally the bus drop-off happens as well. So there's really 3 primary entrances to South Campus each morning.
There's a question about school supplies, and typically and this is a great question, and this is a question that I'll address in my class of 2025 communication. Typically what ends up happening is our teachers will share with our students when they review their syllabi, they'll share with our students what supplies they need for their classes. If you buy general supplies that you want to put in your child wants to put in their locker, you can certainly do that during book pickup as well. So if you have some general supplies, have them bring them to book pickup, throw them in their locker, and then teachers will share specific information if there are any specific needs for individual classes when they talk to their students about beginning of the year expectations and review syllabi.
There's a question here about how many students can the outdoor lunch area at North Campus accommodate? So during any one lunch period, we feed about 500 students. We have 4 separate lunch periods, and about 500 students are in the cafeteria at one time. Our outdoor courtyard could probably safely fit about 100 of those 500. And then, as Dr. Tyrrell mentioned, we'll have separate areas for students who want to remain socially distanced. We'll have the indoor area and then also the outdoor area as well for students to eat. Okay, one more question. Do you see any on there that you want to tackle before we close out for the night?
I'm looking, Dr. Waterman. Thank you for all the welcome wishes. I appreciate that to our families. Thank you for the kind comments in the chat. Yearbooks, if you still want to purchase a yearbook, somebody asked a question about that. Yes, we still have some available for purchase. So you can do that at book pickup or potentially in our bookstore once the year starts as well. Or you can email me and I'll connect you to the right person so that you can get that book. It turned out absolutely outstanding. It looks great. Our kids did a phenomenal job.
So at this time, we will close out and simply say, thank you. There's so many people that were involved in planning this upcoming school year. We're so fortunate to be in a community with amazing students, amazing parents, amazing staff and leaders. And so we're thankful for everyone for really coming together. And we're super excited about the upcoming school year and know that it's going to be amazing. We did our best tonight to take care of as many questions as possible, but if we missed one, or if you have another question you think about after tonight, please don't hesitate to send an email, to give us a call, and we'll do our best to help out. Just want to remind everyone that this will be recorded and posted on our website tomorrow, but also all of the details that we covered throughout the night is currently posted on our website under the 21-22 back to school plan. Any final words, Dr. Tyrrell?
No, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to an outstanding 2021-2022 school year. It's going to be a great year at LT. And once again, thanks for joining tonight.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and let's have a great school year. Take care.